It was a quiet night at the Global Deep Space Monitoring Station in Nevada. The massive radio telescopes turned slowly against the star-filled sky, listening to the endless whispers of the cosmos. Tom Miller, the night shift operator, was sipping his third cup of coffee when the computer started beeping. At first, he thought it was just another routine detection of a pulsar or a distant quasar. But as he looked at the incoming data, his hands began to shake. The signal was unlike anything he had ever seen before. "Hey, Bill, come take a look at this," Tom called out to his supervisor, who was doing his nightly rounds. Bill walked over, his heavy boots echoing in the quiet control room. He leaned over Tom's shoulder, squinting at the screens. The signal pattern was repeating in perfect mathematical sequences, prime numbers, the value of pi, and complex geometric ratios. "This isn't natural," Bill whispered, his eyes widening. "Call the director. Now." Within hours, the station was buzzing with activity. Scientists from around the world connected through video calls, analyzing the mysterious signal. It was coming from the edge of the solar system, somewhere in the Kuiper Belt beyond Neptune's orbit. Director Robert Hayes stood before the emergency meeting of the International Space Defense Force. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and government officials from various nations. The large screen behind him showed the signal analysis. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite his excitement, "what we're looking at is the first confirmed contact from an alien civilization." The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Captain James Walker, sitting in the front row, leaned forward. He had commanded space missions before, but nothing like this. "The signal contains more than just mathematical proofs of intelligence," Hayes continued. "Our team has decoded a message. They need our help." He pressed a button, and the screen changed to show the translated message. "To any civilization receiving this signal, we are stranded. Our fleet carries 2 million souls. Life support systems failing. Primary drive systems damage. Cannot proceed. Cannot return. Location attached. Please help." Captain Walker felt every eye in the room turn to him. He was the most experienced deep space mission commander humanity had. "The good news," Hayes said, "is that we can reach them. They're about 48 hours away at maximum speed using our latest fusion drives. The bad news is we don't know what we're dealing with. This could be a trap, a misunderstanding, or exactly what it appears to be." A genuine cry for help. The president's voice came through the speakers. "Captain Walker, we're tasking you with first contact. The TSV Prometheus will be ready in 6 hours. Pick your crew. Humanity's first meeting with alien life must not go wrong." Walker stood up. "With all due respect, Madam President, if they wanted to attack us, they wouldn't need to lure us out there. That location is close enough for any advanced civilization to reach Earth. I believe they're telling the truth." The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. The Prometheus, humanity's most advanced spaceship, was loaded with extra supplies, emergency equipment, and a carefully selected crew of engineers, scientists, and medical personnel. As Walker stood on the bridge, watching Earth shrink behind them, he thought about the responsibility on his shoulders. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, first contact with alien life. But nobody had expected it to come in the form of a distress call. "Signal strength is increasing," his communication officer reported. "We should have visual contact in about 20 hours. Walker nodded, staring at the star-filled view screen. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was waiting, their fate resting in human hands. The irony wasn't lost on him. For all humanity's dreams of reaching the stars had reached out to them first, not with advanced technology or wisdom, but with a plea for help. "All stations, maintain alert status," he ordered. "We're about to make history, one way or another." The Prometheus continued its journey into the unknown, carrying with it humanity's best hopes for a peaceful first contact. None of them could have guessed that this distress call would change human history forever, in ways they couldn't imagine. The first sight of the alien fleet took everyone's breath away. Through the Prometheus's main viewport, Captain Walker and his crew stared in amazement at the massive collection of ships spread out across space. There were hundreds of them, their silver hulls reflecting the distant sunlight like stars. "Count shows 300 vessels," reported Jane, the sensor operator. "The largest ones are about 5 miles long." "Sir, I'm detecting nearly 2 million life signs." Walker stood from his command chair, his eyes fixed on the stunning view. The alien ships had a beautiful design, like giant silver leaves drifting in space. But even from this distance, he could see that something was wrong. Many of the ships were dark, with only emergency lights glowing faintly. "We're receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "They're using the same frequency as their distress signal." A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. The aliens standing there looked almost human, except for their silvery skin and large purple eyes. The creature wore what appeared to be a uniform. "I am Fleet Commander Tal of the Meridian Exodus Fleet." The aliens spoke in perfect English, their words translated by the computer they had included in their initial signal. "Thank you for answering our call." Walker stepped forward. "I'm Captain James Walker of the Earth ship Prometheus. We're here to help." Tal's expression showed what looked like relief. "Captain, we are in dire need. Our fleet carries the last survivors of our star system. We were forced to flee when our sun began to die unexpectedly. But during our journey, we passed through an unknown radiation field. Our quantum drive systems failed. We cannot move forward or back." Over the next few hours, the Prometheus docked with the Meridian command ship. Walker led a small team aboard, following proper safety protocols. The alien ship's corridors were wide and bright, despite running on emergency power. They passed many Meridians who stopped to stare at the humans with obvious curiosity. In the command ship's meeting room, Tal explained their situation in detail. The Meridians were an advanced civilization that had mastered quantum technology, but the mysterious radiation had damaged the delicate quantum fields their ships relied on. "We have been stranded here for 30 days, Tal said. "Our backup systems are failing. Life support will not last another month. We sent signals to 17 advanced civilizations, but you were the only ones close enough to help." Dr. Anna Lee, the Prometheus's chief scientist, studied the technical data the Meridians provided. "Their technology is incredible," she whispered to Walker, "but also incredibly complex. One small problem in their quantum systems affects everything else." Then something unexpected happened. Mike Thompson, the Prometheus's engineer, had been looking at the Meridian ship's backup power systems. He suddenly started laughing. "Is something amusing?" Tal asked, confused. "Sorry," Thompson said, trying to control himself. "It's just your backup systems. They're basically fusion reactors, aren't they? Similar to what powers our ships, just more advanced." Tal nodded. "Yes, but they're primitive technology. We only keep them for emergencies. None of our people remember how to repair or modify them anymore. We've relied on quantum systems for so long." Thompson grinned. "Well, that's where we can help. Fusion power might be primitive to you, but it's our specialty. We can't fix your quantum drives, but we might be able to get your ships moving using the backup systems." The Meridians looked at each other in surprise. Walker could see the hope growing in their eyes. Their advanced civilization had never imagined that a less developed species might be their salvation. "There's more," Thompson continued. "Your life support systems can run on fusion power. If we can modify the backup reactors, we might buy you enough time to reach our solar system." Tal stood up, towering over the humans. "You would welcome us." Walker smiled. "Earth has plenty of room, and I think both our civilizations could learn a lot from each other." As they continued their discussions, Walker looked out a nearby window at the massive fleet. Sometimes the most advanced answer wasn't the best one. Sometimes you needed to take a step back to move forward. The real work was about to begin. They had 2 million lives to save, and not much time to do it. But for the first time since the Meridians had become stranded, there was real hope. Humanity's first contact with alien life hadn't come with a war or a grand exchange of knowledge. Instead, it had come with a chance to prove that sometimes being less advanced had its advantages. Mike Thompson stood in the massive engine room of the Meridian command ship, scratching his head as he looked at the complex machinery around him. The backup fusion reactor was similar to Earth's technology, but the Meridians had made it so complex that it barely worked anymore. "You see," he explained to Tal and the other Meridian engineers, "you've tried to connect your quantum systems to everything. That's why the backup power isn't working properly. Sometimes simpler is better." The Meridian engineers looked confused. Their society had spent so many years making everything better that they had forgotten the basics of engineering. They had computers for everything, but when those computers failed, they were lost. "Watch this," Thompson said. He pulled out a simple wrench from his toolkit. The Meridians stared at it like it was some kind of magical object. "Sometimes you just need to tighten a bolt." He reached into a panel and gave a loose connection a quick turn. The humming of the backup reactor changed, becoming smoother. The power readings on the wall increased by 10%. "Impossible," one of the Meridian engineers whispered. "How did you know?" Thompson smiled. "Experience. When you work with machines every day, you learn to listen to them. They tell you what's wrong if you pay attention." Over the next few hours, Thompson and his team from the Prometheus began teaching the Meridians about basic engineering. They showed them how to use hand tools, how to identify problems without computers, and how to make repairs with simple parts. "Your backup systems are actually very good," Thompson explained while showing them how to clean fuel injectors. "You just made them too complicated. We need to strip them down to the basics." The Meridians were quick learners. Once they got over their shock at using primitive tools, they began to understand. Some of them even seemed to enjoy working with their hands. "I never knew you could fix things without quantum computers," a young Meridian engineer named Ren said, his purple eyes bright with excitement as he learned to use a welding torch. "This is fun." But they faced a huge problem. Even if they could get the backup systems working better, the fleet's power needs were enormous. The current fusion reactors weren't strong enough to move the ships. "We need to think bigger," Thompson said during a meeting with Captain Walker and the Meridian leaders. He spread out some drawings on the table. "If we combine our fusion technology with some of your quantum principles, we might be able to create a hybrid system." He pointed to his sketches. "Look, we can use the quantum field generators to enhance the fusion reaction. Your people understand the theory, and we know how to build sturdy, reliable systems. Together, we can make something new." The Meridians studied his drawings. Their expressions changed from doubt to interest, and then to excitement. "This could work," Tal said, looking at Thompson with new respect. "But we would need to modify all 300 ships. That's a massive project." Walker nodded. "I've already called Earth. They're sending every engineer and technician they can spare, along with supplies. We can do this if we work together." The next few days were filled with non-stop activity. Human engineers taught Meridian crews how to strip down their overcomplicated systems. Meridian scientists helped the humans understand enough quantum theory to make the hybrid drives work. Thompson worked until he could barely stand, moving from ship to ship, solving problems and teaching others. He had never felt so useful in his life. Here was a civilization that could travel between stars, and they needed his primitive knowledge to survive. "You know what your people's problem was," he told Ren while they worked on a particularly tough reactor. "You tried to make everything perfect. But in engineering, sometimes you need to get your hands dirty. Sometimes the best solution isn't the prettiest one." Ren nodded, his hands covered in grease as he helped Thompson adjust the reactor's fuel mix. "I think we forgot that technology is just a tool. It's the people using it that matter." As Thompson watched humans and Meridians working side by side in engine rooms across the fleet, he realized they were doing more than just fixing ships. They were building bridges between two civilizations, teaching each other that progress wasn't just about making things more advanced. Sometimes it was about remembering where you came from. The real test would come soon. Would their hybrid systems work? 2 million lives depended on the answer. The warning alarms echoed through the Meridian command ship, their high-pitched sound making everyone work faster. Another life support system had failed on one of the outer ships, forcing its crew to evacuate to other vessels. "That's the third failure this week," Captain Walker said, looking at the status screens. Red warning lights showed problems across the fleet. "How much time do we have?" Tal's silver face was grim. "At this rate, we have less than 2 weeks before critical systems start failing across all ships. The evacuations are putting too much strain on the remaining vessels." Thompson wiped sweat from his face as he studied the readings from their first hybrid reactor test. Earth had sent 15 more ships loaded with engineers and supplies, but even with the extra help, they were racing against time. "The good news is the hybrid system works," he said, pointing to the test results. "The bad news is it takes almost 3 days to install each one, with 300 ships to modify." "We don't have enough time," Walker finished. He looked around the room at both human and Meridian faces. "We need a new plan." A young human engineer named Lisa stepped forward. She had been working closely with the Meridian technical teams. "What if we don't modify all the ships?" she suggested. "What if we focus on the largest ones first?" The room grew quiet as she pulled up a fleet diagram on the main screen. "Look, the 20 biggest ships have enough space to hold about half the fleet's population. If we concentrate all our teams on those ships, we could have them ready in 10 days. And the other ships?" Tal asked. "We bring everyone into the modified ships," Lisa explained. "Yes, it will be crowded, but it's better than losing people to life support failures. We can come back for the empty ships later." Thompson nodded slowly. "It could work. We'd need to run the hybrid reactors at full power, but they can handle it. The real challenge will be moving so many people quickly." Walker turned to Tal. "It's your call, Commander. These are your people." Tal stood silent for a long moment, looking at the fleet display. Finally, he straightened up. "Begin the evacuations. We'll start with the ships showing the most serious problems." The next days were a blur of constant activity. Human and Meridian crews worked around the clock, installing hybrid reactors while thousands of Meridians moved between ships. The space around the fleet was filled with shuttle traffic. Thompson hardly slept, moving from engine room to engine room, solving problems as they came up. The hybrid systems were working, but each installation brought new challenges. "The quantum field is unstable," a Meridian technician called out during one installation. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. Thompson rushed over, his experienced eyes scanning the readings. "The field's not unstable," he said, grabbing a wrench. "The mounting bracket is loose. Feel that vibration? Hand me that wrench." 3 quick turns of the wrench, and the warning lights went out. The Meridian technician looked amazed. "How do you notice these things?" 20 years of working with engines," Thompson replied with a tired smile. "Machines talk to you if you listen, even quantum-enhanced ones." By the 8th day, they had modified 15 of the 20 largest ships. The evacuation was more than halfway complete, but the strain on the fleet's remaining life support systems was showing. Hull breach on Ship 47. The call came during a progress meeting. "Emergency evacuation in progress." Everyone watched the status screens as hundreds of life signs moved quickly from the damaged ship to others nearby. Thanks to the evacuation procedures they had practiced, no lives were lost. But it was a close call. "We're cutting it too close," Walker said, looking at the tired faces around him. "We need to work faster." "The engineering teams are already working 20-hour shifts," Thompson replied. "We can't push them harder without risking mistakes. And with these systems, one mistake could be catastrophic." Tal looked out the viewport at his scattered fleet. My people have lived in these ships for generations, leaving them behind, even temporarily. He paused. But you are right. Life is more precious than ships. As they watched another group of Meridians shuttle to safety, Walker thought about how much trust these people were putting in human engineering. Their entire civilization was betting its survival on humanity's primitive technology and practical knowledge. They had 5 days left to prove that trust wasn't misplaced. The real question was, would it be enough time? "Can I try it?" asked a young Meridian child, pointing at Thompson's toolbox. The engineer looked up from his work on the power conduits and smiled. A group of Meridian children had gathered in the engine room, watching the humans work with obvious fascination. "Sure, but be careful," Thompson said, handing the child a simple wrench. "This one's called a wrench. It's one of the most useful tools ever invented." The child turned the wrench over in their small silver hands, purple eyes wide with wonder. More children crowded around, each wanting to touch this strange object that didn't need computers or quantum fields to work. "My grandfather used to tell stories about tools like these," one of them said. "But I thought they were just old tales." Nearby, Lisa was teaching a group of Meridian engineers how to use an analog pressure gauge. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most reliable," she explained. "This will keep working even if all your computers fail." The cultural exchange wasn't just about tools. In the crowded ships where evacuated Meridians now lived, humans were learning too. Meridian children taught human engineers their number games, while human crew members shared stories about Earth. "Your world has so much water," a Meridian elder said during a shared meal break. "Our home system had 12 planets, but none with oceans like yours." Walker watched these interactions from the command center, where he and Tal monitored the evacuation progress. 17 of the 20 largest ships now had working hybrid drives. The rest of the fleet hung silent in space. Their crews moved to safety. "Something unexpected is happening," Tal said, watching a video feed of Thompson teaching young Meridians about basic mechanics. "We thought we were just saving our people, but we're rediscovering parts of ourselves we had lost." The Meridian commander picked up a simple magnetic compass from the desk, a gift from Walker. "We became so focused on advancing our technology that we forgot the joy of understanding how things work. Your people are teaching us to see with new eyes." In the main cargo bay of the command ship, humans had set up a makeshift workshop. Here, they taught Meridian engineers how to make replacement parts using basic tools. The Meridians had always used replicators for everything, but with power strictly rationed, they needed new ways to repair their equipment. "Look at this," said Tom, one of the human mechanics, showing a group of Meridians how to use a metal lathe. No computers, no quantum fields, just precision and skill. "This is how humans started our journey to the stars." A Meridian engineer successfully created his first replacement valve using the lathe. His face showed pure joy, the same expression human children had when building their first toy. "I made this," he said in wonder, holding up the simple metal part, "with my own hands." The learning went both ways. Meridian scientists helped humans understand principles of quantum physics that Earth's best minds had only theorized about. But they did it with new respect, seeing how human practical knowledge complemented their advanced theories. "It's like music," explained Dr. Lee, working with a Meridian physicist to adjust a hybrid reactor's field strength. "You can know all the theory, but sometimes you need to feel the rhythm." In the ship's nursery section, where many evacuated families now lived, children played with a mixture of high-tech Meridian toys and simple human puzzles. A group gathered around an old Earth game called Jenga, learning about physics and balance through play. "Our children will remember this," a Meridian parent told Walker during his daily rounds. "They'll remember how humans taught us that progress isn't just about making things more advanced." Thompson, taking a rare break, watched a young Meridian successfully repair a power coupling using nothing but basic tools. "You know what's funny?" he said to Lisa. We came here to save them with our primitive technology. But really, we're all saving each other. As the evacuation continued, this exchange of knowledge and culture grew stronger. The Meridians began keeping journals about the simple tools and techniques they were learning, determined not to lose these skills again. In the end, it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about two civilizations learning that true advancement meant keeping hold of your foundations while reaching for the stars. And time was still running out. "All teams, report in," Walker's voice echoed through the communication system. After 12 days of non-stop work, they were ready to test all 19 modified ships at once. The 20th ship had been deemed too damaged to repair in time. "Engine room 1, ready," Thompson reported, his hand steady on the main control panel. Around him, human and Meridian engineers watched their instruments carefully. The hybrid reactors hummed with power, combining Earth's reliable fusion technology with Meridian quantum fields. Life support systems holding steady, Lisa called from her station. Nearly 2 million Meridians were now crowded into these 19 ships. The corridors were packed, but everyone understood the need. "This has to work," Tal said quietly, standing beside Walker on the command ship's bridge. "We have less than 2 days of life support remaining in some sections." Walker nodded grimly. If the hybrid drives failed now, they wouldn't have time for another solution. The remaining unmodified ships floated silently around them, empty monuments to the Meridian's journey. "All ships, begin power-up sequence," Walker ordered. "Thompson, you're leading this dance." In engine room 1, Thompson took a deep breath. "Start the fusion reactors first," he instructed. "Nice and slow, just like we practiced." Across 19 massive ships, fusion reactors roared to life. It was old technology by Meridian standards, but reliable. The power readings climbed steadily. "Fusion reactors at 80% capacity," reported a Meridian engineer. "No problems detected." "Now for the tricky part," Thompson said. "Begin quantum field integration. Remember, gentle and steady." This was the moment of truth. They had never tested all the hybrid systems together. The quantum fields could interact in unexpected ways. Warning alarms suddenly blared on Ship 12. "Quantum field destabilizing," someone shouted over the comm. "I see it," Thompson said calmly. "Ship 12, your field harmonics are off. Adjust your primary coil 1/4 turn counterclockwise. Use the wrench, not the computer." A few tense seconds passed. "Field stabilizing." The report came back. "How did you know?" "The sound was wrong," Thompson replied. "Remember what I taught you. Listen to your machines." One by one, the hybrid drives came fully online. The massive ships hummed with power, their energy readings stronger than ever before. "All ships showing green," Lisa announced. "We did it." A cheer went up across the fleet. Humans and Meridians hugged each other, celebrating their shared victory. But Thompson wasn't celebrating yet. "Now comes the hard part," he said. "We have to move these ships in formation. One wrong move with these hybrid drives could be disastrous." Walker's voice came over the comm. "All ships, prepare for movement test. Short burst only, 1 second of power." The entire fleet held its breath. 2 million lives hung on this moment. 3, 2, 1, engage. 19 enormous ships fired their hybrid drives simultaneously. The space around them lit up with the combined glow of fusion fire and quantum fields. "All ships maintaining formation." Lisa called out. "Power level stable." Thompson watched his readings carefully. The hybrid drives were working better than they had hoped. Earth's primitive fusion technology was actually making the quantum fields more stable. "Full power test next," Walker announced. "This will tell us if we can reach Earth." Again, the ships fired their drives. This time, they held the power longer. The empty ships left behind grew smaller as the modified fleet began to move. "Navigation confirms we can maintain this speed," Tal reported, his voice full of emotion. "We can reach Earth in 17 days at this rate." The celebration this time was deafening. Even Thompson allowed himself to smile. They had done the impossible, combined two vastly different technologies to save 2 million lives. You know what this means, Lisa said, looking at the power readings. These hybrid drives actually work better than pure quantum drives. They're more stable, more reliable. Thompson nodded. Sometimes the best solution is a mix of old and new, just like our people working together. Walker looked out at the stars ahead of them. Earth was waiting, ready to welcome these refugees from across the stars. But they weren't just bringing 2 million survivors. They were bringing a new era of cooperation between two civilizations, an era where advanced theory and practical knowledge worked hand in hand. The journey home was about to begin. Earth grew larger in the view screens as the combined fleet approached. After 17 days of careful travel, the 19 ships carrying 2 million Meridian refugees had finally reached their destination. "It's so blue," whispered a Meridian child, pressing their silver hands against the viewport. Around the ships, hundreds of Meridians gathered to see their new home for the first time. Captain Walker stood on the bridge with Commander Tal, watching Earth's oceans and continents come into view. "The world governments have approved your settlement plan," he said. "The northern regions of Neptune's moon Triton will be yours to colonize. Its conditions are closest to your original home." Tal's purple eyes shimmered with emotion. "When we sent out our distress call, we hoped for rescue. Instead, we found a new home and new friends." He turned to Walker. "Your people could have simply taught us to safety. Instead, you taught us to help ourselves." In Engine Room 1, Thompson and his team were running final checks on the hybrid drive. The system had performed perfectly during the journey, proving that the combination of human and Meridian technology was more than just an emergency solution. "These readings are remarkable," Lisa said, showing Thompson the efficiency data. "The quantum fields actually work better with our primitive fusion containment. It's like they were meant to work together." The first phase of landing operations began. Smaller ships from Earth arrived to help transfer Meridian families to their new home on Triton. The massive colony ships would be parked in stable orbits and slowly converted into space stations. In what had become known as the tool room, the makeshift workshop where humans had taught Meridians basic engineering, a group of young Meridians was cataloging their collection of hand tools. "We'll need to teach these skills to every new generation," one of them said, carefully organizing the wrenches and gauges. "We won't forget the value of understanding our machines again." Dr. Lee, who had worked closely with Meridian scientists, approached Walker with an exciting proposal. "Captain, the Meridian Scientific Council wants to establish a joint human Meridian engineering academy. They want to combine their theoretical knowledge with our practical experience." Walker smiled. "Where would this academy be built?" "That's the best part," she replied. "They want to build it on both Earth and Triton. Students from both worlds would spend time learning in both places." The next few weeks were filled with activity as the Meridians began their new lives. The temperature-controlled domes on Triton quickly took shape, combining Earth construction methods with Meridian environmental technology. Thompson found himself surrounded by eager students, both human and Meridian, as he taught a class on hybrid drive maintenance. "Remember," he told them, holding up his trusty wrench, "technology is just a tool. It's how you use it that matters." In orbit around Earth, workers began converting one of the empty Meridian ships into the first human Meridian Engineering Academy space station. Its corridors, once silent, now echoed with voices speaking both Earth languages and the musical tones of Meridian speech. "Look at this," Tal said to Walker, showing him the latest student enrollment numbers. "Over 10,000 applications from both our peoples. They all want to learn both ways, the theory and the practical." The hybrid drive technology was already being adapted for other uses. Earth ships were being upgraded with the new systems, while Meridian designs were being simplified for better reliability. It was a perfect symbol of what their peoples could achieve together. One evening, as Thompson watched the Earth rise over Triton's icy surface from the new colony's observation dome, a small Meridian child approached him. "Is it true?" the child asked. that you saved our people with simple tools and human hands." Thompson knelt down to the child's level. "No," he said gently. "We all saved each other. Your people taught us to reach for the stars, and we reminded you to keep your feet on the ground. That's the real lesson here." As he spoke, a new ship rose from Earth's surface, its hybrid drive glowing with the combined power of fusion and quantum fields. It was the first vessel built jointly by humans and Meridians, a herald of things to come. The stars above seemed brighter somehow, more promising. Two civilizations had learned that true progress wasn't about abandoning the old for the new, but about finding the strength that comes from combining both. And somewhere in space, empty ships waited silently, ready to be reclaimed by their newfound wisdom. The end.